Top prospect Jordan Lawlar has gotten the call to the majors with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and Gavin Williams looked great in his return to the mound after his knee injury. Join me today as I talk about must-add players heading into the weekend on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. My brother, Matthew Ine, has the night off tonight, and he'll be off tomorrow as well, so you're rocking with just me tonight. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel, also gives you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly, subscribe to us on the Subtext website. Through Subtext, it's a one-on-one, in-depth, personalized experience through text messaging, and we offer a lot more on there than we could offer to you in this 30-minute episode. And guys, we got a fully loaded episode for you. And as always, let us be your team secret weapon as we talk must-add players heading into this weekend. And guys, the big news is here. If you were on Subtext with us, you got the alert right away. Jordan Lawlar is here in the bigs. And man, the young shortstop prospect, 21 years old, 6'1", 190, has been very, very good in the minors. The guy is the 10th overall prospect in all of the MLB. Let me give you some stats on Jordan Lawlar. 278 batting average this year through 105 games, 417 at-bats, 95 runs, 23 doubles, 4 triples, 20 homers, 67 RBIs, and 36 steals. So the guy definitely has plus speed. He's got a little bit of pop in there too. Overall, as just a hitter, he's pretty strong. Always has hit for a pretty solid batting average down in the minors. And I like Lawlar. Am I going to say he's an absolute must-add? He's on the verge. He's on the verge. He's 8% owned on Yahoo right now as of me recording this. It's a tough spot. We had a lot of call-ups recently, and we're going to probably see a few more. I think if you need that, middle infield help, that shortstop help, he's definitely going to be good. If you need the speed in your lineup, I know there's a lot of speed out there this year, but Lawlar offers a lot of speed. I think this might have to do with the Corbin Carroll injury. If you have Corbin Carroll, he was hit today on the wrist by a pitch, and he was hit before that as well. So this might be the preemptive, like they might have seen something bad with Corbin Carroll on that, x-ray. So maybe that's why Lawlar's getting the call here. I'm not wishing anything bad upon Carroll because my has Corbin Carroll been, one of the best players in fantasy baseball overall. But Jordan Lawlar might be getting the call to, kind of take his spot. I know they play different positions, but they could potentially move guys around and make it work. But I think Lawlar probably will hit near the top of the lineup, especially if Carroll's out. He might even take that leadoff spot that, Corbin Carroll had been occupying. So if I had to put him on the Adometer, I think it's probably like a 7.5, 8 for Jordan Lawlar. Definitely a young, interesting player that you want to give a shot on your fantasy baseball team. Let's keep things pushing here. And I totally forgot the Jordan Lawlar banner on YouTube. I apologize about that, guys. But let's move on to another Jordan, and it's Jordan Walker. And my, oh my, has Jordan Walker looked like an absolute monster so far this season. Well, not the season. I want to say like the last 2 weeks or so, right? It takes time to adjust, and I know Jordan Walker came up and he had a 12, 13, 14 game hit streak to start his career, then really slowed down. But the last 14 days for Walker, over his last 33 at-bats, 7 runs, 4 homers, 9 RBIs with a 455 batting average. The kid has really turned a corner here. Even if you just go over his last couple of games, 3 for 4 in his game on September 5th, 3 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs. September 3rd, 2 for 4, 2 runs, a homer, RBI. September 2nd, 2 for 3 with another homer and 2 RBIs. Then you skip a game there on the September 1st, you only 1 for 4. But on August 30th, 4 for 4, 3 RBIs. with a homer. Jordan Walker's on another level right now. I know he's 68% owned, which is up 16% over the last couple of days here. But if you're somehow in a league where Jordan Walker is available, you're definitely going to want to pick him up. It's like a pause the podcast moment and make sure this guy is not available in your league, because if he is, you're adding him instantly. Numbers on the year for Walker, they're not fantastic, but they're not horrible either. Through 94 games played, Walker has a 279 batting average with 40 runs, 15 homers, 44 RBIs, and 6 steals. I think this is a guy that's going to take a huge step forward next year, and he's kind of flashing it right now. It's kind of what O'Neal Cruz did last year. You know, he came up, he was pretty solid. Then, you know, he kind of tampered down, and then towards the end of the season, he really just picked it up. It had like a huge September. Looks like Jordan Walker is following that same path here. So Walker, if he's available, I think he's probably my favorite hitter that I'm going to talk about tonight. So go out there and see if Jordan Walker is available and add him if he is. Let's move on to another young gun. It's 3 young guns in a row to start the night here. Let's talk about CES Christian Encarnacion-Strand. Another guy that's just been heating up of late. You know, he's been doing pretty good. I'll give you his last 2 weeks as well. His last 2 weeks, 4 runs, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 278 batting average over his last 54 at-bats. Strand is hitting, you know, 5th, 6th in that lineup. He's moved up a little bit since he got the call. But you know what? He's 3 for 5 on September 5th with the homer, 2 RBIs. And on August 30th, you know, 4 for 4 with the homer, 3 RBIs. He's been starting to catch his groove, and this kid has light tower power. Christian Encarnacion-Strand has really strong power. So, you know, hitting in a Great American, I was almost going to say Great American Hitter Park, like Matt says, but Great American Small Park, which it's, you know, referred to as because it's one of the smaller parks in the league, one of the best stadiums to hit in. I think Strand could take full advantage of that. He has to stop striking out. He's striking out way too much, which is, you know, killing you in points leagues. 8 walks to 50 strikeouts, which is, you know, kind of unacceptable. Even today's day and age where a lot of guys strike out very often, you don't want to see that. But Strand in the minors has been absolutely dominant throughout his whole minor league career. In 2022, he had 32 homers in 122 games. This year, he had 20 homers in 67 games. So, as I said, very prestigious power. He hit 331 in the minors this year, 304 last year, and he hit 391 in 2021. So the batting average potential is there. I think Strand, like Walker, is starting to figure it out here in the majors. Another guy next year, I'm going to have him pretty high going into next year on my rankings at first base. So if Strand is out there, I think you grab him too. You know, first base has been kind of tough this year after the, you know, major players at first. And then even Anthony Rizzo being deemed out for the rest of the year. If you were banking on Rizzo coming back and Strand is out there, Strand is only owned in 32% of leagues right now. You could make that, you know, adjustment in your plans and just see if you can get Strand into your lineup. I kind of like, you know, his matchups for the rest of the season. So definitely give Strand a shot if you need power or if you need help at first base. So I got one more guy here for you, and then I'm going to hop into an ad. But let's talk about my boy, Nolan Jones. I feel like we've talked about him almost every week on these episodes, but Nolan Jones is still only 47% owned. I think he's a great fit-in if you potentially lost Corbin Carroll here, because Nolan Jones, man, he's been getting it done. Over the last 2 weeks, he has 8 runs, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, 4 steals, 298 batting average, and that's over 47 at-bats. The young Nolan Jones is just super uber talented. I can't believe at this late in the year there's just guys like Nolan Jones and Strand that are just sitting out there on waiver wires waiting to be picked up. Nolan Jones is 6'4", 195, the big lefty, man. I think another kid that's going to, you know, be flying up my rankings going into next year. Another guy with not great plate discipline, but he's got power. He's got speed. You know, the runs and RBIs aren't hurting you, and the 282 batting average, you're absolutely loving that from Nolan Jones. So I don't really have too much to add here. We talk about Nolan Jones all the time, first and outfield eligible. Another guy, you know, he's still got some matchups here, you know, in cores down the stretch. So I think he's definitely a name you're going to want to keep your eyes on. But guys, real quick, I have to talk to you about today's sponsor, and that is eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay's guaranteed fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to my garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. And dear everydayers and new listeners, we have an incredible opportunity for you to support the show and enjoy some fantastic perks along the way. Introducing our Diamond Club on the Subtext website. By becoming a member, you not only contribute to the show's success, but also gain access to exclusive benefits. Get your hands on waiver wire rankings, call-up alerts, injury updates, instant reactions, and enjoy direct access to us for all of your burning fantasy baseball questions. Plus, you can try it out completely free for 14 days. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to connect with you on this exciting journey. Join our Diamond Club on the Subtext website today, and let's take your fantasy baseball experience to new heights. And guys, if you were a member of the Diamond Club, you got that call-up alert right away on Jordan Lawlar. We offer waiver wire rankings. You know, all of the guys today, will rank them in the order that you need. You get to talk to us about, you know, all of your fantasy baseball questions, you know, in the playoffs right now. And I hope you're all doing well in the fantasy baseball playoffs. Not even just the Diamond Club members, but everybody. I hope you're doing well out there. I hope Matt and I have been able to help you guys throughout the year. And on Subtext, we can just give you that more in-depth fantasy baseball experience, more than we can offer in this 30-minute, you know, episode that we do 5 times a week. And even with fantasy football coming up, if you got some fantasy football questions, Matt and I play, we'll chime in and help you out with fantasy football too. But guys, let me keep things pushing here with today's episode, because that's what you're here for. And let's talk about this next guy, and it's Mitch Garver, another dude that we've just been talking about a lot. He's still under-owned, and at this point, it's not even just a catcher play with Garver. He's been hitting 5th in one of the best lineups in all of baseball in Texas, and I just feel like you got to add him at this point. He's 40% owned, which is kind of outrageous, really, when the guy is just mashing homers. He had, you know, a 2-home-run game back on September 3rd, 4 RBIs that day. Big day for Garver. Let's even talk about the last, you know, 7 days for him. He's been really, 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 really good. 18 at-bats in his last 7 days. 4 runs, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, 389 batting average. Not much you could ask for at any position, even catcher. If you just have a catcher right now that's struggling, that's underwhelming. If you lost Henry Davis and you still have, who do I pick up? Mitch Garver is that guy. Like I said, not much else I could say about Garver besides he's hitting right in that middle of that, you know, Rangers lineup. He offers a lot of power, and just go add Mitch Garver, 40% owned on Yahoo. The guy's having, you know, a tremendous comeback season. But let's move on. Let's get into the pitching side of this, and let's talk about somebody that Matt and I absolutely love, and we kind of been telling you to keep your eye on him all year. And then when you got the call, if you were in the, you know, Diamond Club, you got the alert, and it's Gavin Williams. Gavin Williams is back after that knee injury scare. You know, I was pretty nervous, and, you know, Terry Francona was speaking like, you know, well, it's not too serious, but, you know, the kid's almost at his innings limit, so they want to be careful with him. But I think he'll get a few more starts here down the stretch. And like I said, he returned today. He pitched pretty good. He pitched against the Twins. He went 5 innings, got the win, 4 strikeouts, gave up 1 earned run, and had a 1 whip. And on the season, let's see if I can get the numbers there with this start included. I have a little secret for you guys. If you're in the Diamond Club, I'll reveal that little secret to you if you ask me about it. But I got his stats with today's start: 3.34 ERA, a 1.26 whip, and he has 72 strikeouts through 70 innings. So, you know, that K per 9 is looking pretty good. And I think Gavin Williams can even take it to another level. He's got good breaking stuff. He's got a strong fastball. Another young gun that I'm going to have high in my rankings next year, Gavin Williams, is only 39% owned on Yahoo. And I think he could really help you out here through the fantasy baseball playoffs. His next start is at San Francisco. You know, a nice matchup for him there. The Giants are not a bad team, but, you know, that's a good park to pitch in, and the lineup isn't, like, really scaring me. And then he goes against one of the worst teams in all of baseball, the Kansas City Royals. Really, if you could just navigate around Bobby Witt, you're going to be fine in that one. So he's got 2 good starts coming up in the fantasy baseball playoffs. Gavin Williams, starting pitcher for the Cleveland Guardians. You're definitely going to want to add him at 39% owned. Very, very under-owned. I'm sure he was dropped in a lot of leagues with that injury scare, and take advantage of those owners who did drop him. Next up for you guys, I do have a closer here. Let's talk some Tanner Scott. And Tanner Scott, has taken over that, job in Miami. He's been a closer before. I really, really like what he's doing there. And he's actually up to 53% owned. So, people have been noticing what's going on here with Tanner Scott. But very, very good numbers here on the year. 65 innings, 7 wins, 5 saves, 88 strikeouts, a 2.33 ERA, and a 1.07 whip for Tanner Scott. Really, he's in that must-add territory. I'm going to be honest with you. If you need a closer this time of year, you really don't get the opportunity like that to pick up a guy with big strikeout numbers that, has closer experience. Last year, he was closing for them. Last year, he actually had 20 saves. Very strong strikeout ratio at 28 years old. I'm honestly going to consider this a breakout year for the 28-year-old because last year he was all right. Last year, 4.31 ERA. He pitched 67 games. He had those 20 saves I mentioned. He had 62 innings, 90 strikeouts, and a 1.61 whip, which is super, super high. But this year, as I read you off those overall numbers, just actually really, really strong improvement here for Tanner Scott. So definitely somebody you want to go out there and, snag him up right now, honestly. You're not going to have that opportunity with a lot of other closers here down the stretch. So go out there and grab yourself some Tanner Scott. Next up, we got Seth Lugo. And, man, I've been preaching about this guy for, once again, another guy I've been talking about the last few weeks. And he's just still going out there and dominating. I don't know. Seth Lugo has been around for a long time, came up with the New York Mets, and just has always kind of been brushed under the rug. A guy like this with a career 3.48 ERA through 60 starts, 297 games overall, though, pitched out of the bullpen a lot, 616 innings pitched in his career, 625 strikeouts, and a 1.17 whip. The guy just constantly keeps going out there and getting it done. So Seth Lugo is another guy you're going to want to go out there and add for the fantasy baseball playoffs. I picked him up in a bunch of my leagues, I want to say like over a month ago, and I've been reaping the rewards of it. I hope you guys have done it too. He's up to 55% owned, and his last start, he went out there and he pitched pretty well against San Fran. 6 innings, got the win, 4 strikeouts, no earned, 0.67 whip. He does get Houston on September 9th, so that one isn't as easy as a matchup as he's had over his, last few. Honestly, I trust him at this point. He might give up a couple of runs, but after Houston, he gets a nice little matchup against Oakland at Oakland, so that's a great park to pitch in. And I think if you can, fiddle your way through this Houston matchup with Seth Lugo, you're going to reap the rewards, in the upcoming weeks because he's got some good matchups. Like I said, that next one in Oakland for Seth Lugo, I really like that matchup for him. But real quick, before we move on to these last couple of guys here, I got a New York Mets starting pitcher for you that has rebounded and looked really, really good here. And then, sadly, Matt's not here, but you know what? I'm going to keep the Philly love in here. I got one of his Philly boys on this list as well. All right, guys, thank you for hanging in there with that little ad break. And let's move on to, our last couple of names here. Let's talk about Jose Quintana. Now Jose Quintana, a little bit older. He had a, really, really strong last year with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he's starting to pitch pretty good again here, coming back off that injury this year. He looked really, really good in his last one against the Nationals. 7 innings, got the win, 4 strikeouts, gave up 1 earned run, and a 0.71 whip. His numbers on the year, pretty promising as well. I mean, he's not what he used to be back in the day, but you know what? 54 innings, 39 strikeouts, 2 wins, a 3 ERA, and a 1.26 whip. If you need somebody that's going to go out there and suppress runs, not really strike too many guys out, and there's not a guarantee on a win every time because, the New York Mets have not been performing the way that they've, have in previous years. They're kind of stinking it up just like my Yankees are. But you know what? The Yankees have looked a little bit better of late. Shout out to, Jason Dominguez, out there contributing, and Stan decides to wake up at, the worst time possible. But I'll keep my my Yankee talk short there. I know you guys are here for the fantasy conversation. So in his next start, Jose Quintana gets those Diamondbacks. And if Corbin Carroll's not in that lineup, they look a lot less deadly than they normally do. And then after that, he gets the Cincinnati Reds at, here in New York. So I like that a lot better than pitching in Great American Ballpark there in Cincinnati. So 2 decent matchups with his next couple for Quintana. And Quintana is, 29% owned. Not my favorite guy on this list. To be honest with you, he might be closer to my least favorite guy on this list, but he'll be serviceable. I don't think he's going to go out there and get torched in any of those matchups. So Quintana is definitely somebody you can go out there and you can lean towards. And then I got one more guy left for you today, and then maybe I'll do some playoff strategy ranting because, I've got a lot of time left, without my brother Matt here today. But let's talk about this last guy. Let's talk about Cristopher Sanchez. Now, Cristopher Sanchez, I feel like I've talked about him recently too. And my thing is with him, I feel like he's doing that whole Ranger Suarez thing that Ranger Suarez did, a couple of years ago where he kind of just came out of nowhere and had a monster second half. Cristopher Sanchez on the year, he has 2 wins, a 3.48 ERA, a 1.04 WHIP, 75 innings, 69 Ks. So very, very promising numbers from the young Cristopher Sanchez. He gets Miami in his next outing. Now, Miami's making that push for the playoffs, and Jazz has looked hot, so it's not as easy of a matchup as it was earlier in the year. But I think Jorge Soler just hit the 10-day IL, so you don't have that mammoth in the middle of that lineup. And he does get Atlanta. It looks like he gets Atlanta twice after that. So actually, maybe Sanchez is my least favorite guy because, at least Quintana has some decent matchups. Sanchez is kind of going to have to go out there and show us all that he can get it done. But you know what? He's been decent of late. He gave up 3 runs in 4.2 innings against the Angels, had 5 strikeouts. Whip was a little high to 1.5. But before that, he went out there and he handled the St. Louis Cardinals. Once again, Cristopher Sanchez of the Phillies is who I'm talking about here. 6 innings in August 25th start against the Cardinals. Got the win, 6 strikeouts, gave up a couple of earned, and he had a 0.83 whip. So he's been serviceable. That Atlanta Braves team, anybody going out there is going to be tough to pitch against them. So maybe I'll just stream Sanchez in that next start against Miami. And then, that Atlanta Braves one is really tough to justify throwing him out there. But I do like the talent of Cristopher Sanchez, especially heading into next year. I think he'll be, late round guy that you could look towards. But guys, that's all of the players that I have for you today. But, if you're out there and you're in the fantasy baseball playoffs, couple of things that I'll throw your way just for advice if you're still hanging around here at the 22-minute mark is just that it's time to cut and move, trim the fat, get rid of those guys that aren't performing. If you've been waiting on anybody that they'll wake up, you got to get them off your fantasy team because this isn't the time you do, especially in redraft. Even if you're in a keeper league that keeps maybe 8 to 10 guys, and if a guy's not going to be a keeper for you, there's no reason to have them on your team. Get rid of them. Get some of these hot names in there. Get the Gavin Williams, get the Seth Lugos, get the Nolan Joneses in there. Get those guys that are just hot. And if you join us on the Subtext website, you can ask us more specific questions of guys on your team that hey, is it time to get rid of this guy? Show us who you have on your waiver wire. Matt and I will get you all of those, answers and get you in position to, to strike here. You gotta stay locked on this time of year. If you miss a couple of days, if you're too focused on football, you might lose that touch. Even in football, it's okay. You a couple of early weeks, if you're not super locked in, you could always make that up. But here in the fantasy baseball playoffs, guys, come on, win yourself some money, do what you need to do. And Matt and I will help you get you to that promised land. But that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. Appreciate you hanging in there with me on a solo episode. So, as I said, that's all for us today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. Be sure to look out for a new episode tomorrow. Like I said, I'll be riding solo then as well. Matt's away for the weekend, next couple of days here. So until tomorrow, guys, see you.